Republican Party is expected to make gains in these November midterms, but according to a new poll, it isn't all doom and gloom for the Democrats. Here with us now, President and CEO of the Terrence Group, Ed Goes, and President of Lake Research Partners, Celinda Lake. They're here to reveal their bipartisan collaboration on the George Washington University Battleground poll. Great to have you on this.
Great to have you guys.
Fascinating.
There's good news for both parties, but Ed, you know, we're two Republicans that go way, way back. Let's talk about right now the poll that we're looking at. What's the Republican Party's biggest weakness?
Well, I think the biggest weakness is we need to keep the focus on the president and kind of the direction of the country. I mean, if you look at the poll, there's not much weakness for Republicans. We have an intensity that's 12 points higher than the Democrats. We're beating them for the first time ever in our polling on the generic ballot.
Right, but here we have standing up for the middle class, the GOP 37%, the Democrats 52%.
Right, and what you have to do on that particular question is look at where is the middle class on answering that question. What you have is low income respond overwhelmingly for the Democrats. Middle class voters are split. Right. And in fact, middle class voters give the president a 51% disapproval on standing up for the middle class and representing middle class values.
Let's talk about foreign policy. Obviously, Celinda, we talk about it an awful lot around here. President Obama is upside down by 20 points. 38% think he's doing a good job. 58% think he's not doing a good job. How does that impact other parts of the polls, like leadership, trades, right track, wrong track?
Well, I think it goes back to your original point that you made to add. We need this election to be focused on domestic policy. And
we say we, Democrats need to be on domestic.
Yeah, and Democrats need it. What we need is 2 months of really focusing, and the president focusing on a middle-class economic message.
That's kind of hard to do when the world's on fire, though, isn't it?
Well, it gets hard because every other day he gets pulled back, understandably so, to leadership in foreign policy. But voters aren't voting foreign policy in this midterm election. They're voting their own pocketbooks and their own economic
And Mike, we just put up right track, wrong track. Overwhelmingly, Americans think we're still going in the wrong direction.
Which leads me to ask, all these numbers, I mean, very negative for the president. What do you think the turnout is going to be? Low?
Well, I think traditionally turnout is about 50% of registered voters in a non-presidential year. It's about 70% in a presidential year. I think what we're seeing here is that's why we look at intensity so much, is that all the key groups that were the president's key groups in the last election, young voters, African-American voters, Hispanic voters, single women, are all substantially lower than the Republican base.
Why is it? I throw this to both of you guys. We expected Tom Cotton to be way ahead right now. We expected Republicans to be doing much better in Kentucky. Mitch is still tied. You could go in a lot of red states where Republicans just aren't pulling away. Politico had a story on this a couple of days ago. Why is that? I'll start with you, Celinda, then we'll go to Ed.
Because voters are upset with both parties, and voters are more anti-incumbent, honestly, than they are anti-one party or the other.
Have you ever seen it this bad?
I've never seen it this evenly bad, and it used to be people said,
it's a race to the bottom, right?
Right. And it used to be people said, well, my guy's good, now they're put their guy on notice. So if you're an incumbent congressperson running in a Senate race, that's not a very good badge of honor.
And you know, Ed, it's usually a zero-sum game. A Republican president goes down, Democrats go up, vice versa. But it is now throw the bums out, and a lot of people even not liking their own congressman.
It really isn't, because if you look at our survey and you look at the internals, and one of the things you get in the public polls that are out there is they're not looking at the intensity that changes the numbers somewhat. If you look at the competitive Senate seats, that generic ballot that we lead by 4 points grows to a 12-point lead in those days.
So, Ed, here we are. What's today, guys? It's September the 3rd. It sounds like, Ed, 2 days after Labor Day, you're predicting a really big Republican win this year.
Particularly in the Senate. We got a lot of the win in governors.
So Republicans win the Senate?
I think we do win the Senate, and I think we may even have a couple of seats to spare.
So you look at this poll that came out, and you think it's great news for Republicans?
Oh, it's across the board. If you look at the president's numbers, what you have to look at is the intensity of his measurement.
All right.
Very good for us.
Counterpoints.
Thank you.
Why is this good? good news? Why is this poll good news for Democrats?
I don't think it's good news for Democrats, but there's a clear roadmap for Democrats. There's a big turnout disadvantage. If we get that turnout corrected, and we know how to do that, and we've been practicing for a long time, particularly with the Obama team, then this race evens up. We are ahead on Social Security and Medicare. This is an older electorate. In 2010, we were behind on Social Security and Medicare. Now we're ahead on Social Security and Medicare.
This is fascinating.
And it's a middle-class election.
All right, this is fascinating.
All
I
right.
greatly appreciate you guys.
Thank you for having us.